I smiled, turned around, and left the bridal shower quietly while everyone stared. That envelope, the one she threw back at me and called a cheap little gift, contained a certified copy of the recorded deed, the transfer packet, and a photograph of the house I'd already purchased. A $385,000 house, the kind of house she and my son had dreamed about for 3 years. And she had no idea what she was rejecting. She thought it was a check or a card, something small enough to dismiss without knowing its weight. I didn't say a word. I just left. But you need to understand who I was before that moment. You need to understand what I'd already given to get there. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I raised a son named Wilson, and I loved him with the kind of love that makes you work doubles, that makes you skip your own dreams, that makes you say yes to everything because you're too tired to say no. Wilson was born when I was 22. His father left when he was a baby. Literally, left. Disappeared like he'd never existed. So it was me. Always me. I worked in dental hygiene, and later I added shifts at a private practice, 60, sometimes 70 hours a week. I did this so Wilson could go to good schools, so he could have things, so he wouldn't feel like he came from nothing. Wilson got into a great engineering program at UT Austin. He had a generous scholarship, but I still covered about $80,000 in tuition and living costs over 4 years. I worked nights. I slept 4 hours a day, but he graduated debt-free. That was the point. That was always the point. Wilson graduated at 25 and got a job in a tech firm in Dallas. Good salary, good life ahead of him. The plan was always to move to Austin after the wedding. The problem was debt and down payments and the normal financial struggle that comes from starting with nothing. Victoria made decent money in marketing, but she spent it the moment it hit her account. I watched her buy a $3,000 Hermes bag the same month she was complaining about down payment savings. But I started saving differently. I had a real estate agent friend, Terry, who specialized in estate sales. When a beautiful Craftsman house came on the market in Austin for $385,000, I called him. I said, "Buy it." He said, "For yourself." I said, "No, for my son." But he doesn't know yet. I paid cash, every penny I'd been saving for my retirement. I put the deed in my name temporarily. Just paperwork. We'd transfer it to them as a wedding gift, the ultimate gift, the kind of gift that changes everything.
I was going to hand him the keys at the bridal shower. The keys were in my purse. The envelope with the certified copy of the recorded deed, the transfer packet, and the photograph was meant to set up the reveal. The bridal shower was at a country club in Highland Park on a Saturday in May 2024, the fancy part of Dallas. Victoria had made sure to mention it constantly in the weeks leading up. There were 40 women there. Friends from her family, from her job, from her Instagram following, apparently. I wore a blue dress from Nordstrom Rack. It was nice. It was appropriate. It was not designer. Wilson was there too. He had been asked to help a setup, to be visible but not in the way. Typical groom at a bridal shower. Present but peripheral. The first hour was fine. Uncomfortable, but fine. Victoria kept referencing conversations I wasn't part of, inside jokes about clubs I'd never been to. She had this way of making you feel permanently on the outside of her world. I noticed Wilson watching her, smiling when she made a cutting remark about someone's jewelry, not stopping her when she dismissed a guest's compliment. The enablement was already there. He was already choosing her version of the world. But I didn't care. I had the envelope. White, simple, no fanfare. The deed copy, the transfer packet, and the photograph were inside. The gift-giving portion started at 2 p.m. Victoria sat in a chair, a literal throne, and opened gifts one by one. Registry items, expensive kitchen things, monogram towels. She'd make theatrical comments about how perfect they were. Then it was my turn. I handed her the envelope. White. Simple. Victoria opened it. I watched her face. At first, she looked confused. She pulled out the papers and the photograph and stared at them without understanding what she was looking at. For 3 seconds, she was quiet. Then her face changed. "What is this?" she asked. "Open it," I said. "It's a gift." She looked at the photograph. The house was beautiful on it. Original hardwoods, big porch, craftsman style. She held it up like it was contaminated. "This is just a piece of paper?" She held it up like it was contaminated. The room went quiet. I started. "This is a cheap little gift," she said. She was talking to the room now, not to me, making sure everyone heard. My stomach dropped, but I didn't move. I looked at Wilson. He was standing against the wall watching. Our eyes met, and he said nothing. He just looked away, the way he'd been looking away from her cruelty all along. "This is embarrassing," Victoria continued. "I don't even know what this is. A certificate? Some kind of scam? What is this supposed to be?" "It's a deed," I said quietly. "A deed?" She laughed, actually laughed, sharp, cruel. "To what? A parking spot? This is pathetic. I'm sorry, but this is genuinely the cheapest gift I've ever received." One of her friends laughed nervously. Victoria's mother smiled. The other women looked at their laps.
And Wilson? He still said nothing. "I'm not going to pretend to be grateful for this," Victoria said. She actually threw it on the floor. Not gently. She threw it like it was trash. It slid across the marble, landed by someone's Louboutins. "We don't need your charity," Victoria said. She wasn't looking at me anymore. "We'll figure something out on our own." The room stayed silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then someone asked about her honeymoon plans, and the party moved on like I wasn't standing there. I looked at Wilson one more time. He was looking at his shoes. I picked the deed copy up off the floor. I didn't say anything. I just turned around, walked out of the country club, got in my car, drove away. And I smiled the entire drive home, not because I was happy, but because I finally understood what I had to do. Victoria had just made the biggest mistake of her life. She had no idea what she'd just rejected. And Wilson? He'd made his choice. He'd chosen to say nothing while his fiancée humiliated his mother. Both of them had shown me exactly who they were. I got home at 4:47 p.m. and I made a decision that would change everything. If you've ever sacrificed everything for someone and had them throw it back in your face without even knowing what it was, I need you to comment, "I know," right now. But here's the twist. What really broke my heart wasn't just what she said. It was that my own son stood there and said nothing. He watched his mother get humiliated, and he chose to stay silent. And when he finds out what that envelope actually contains, the guilt is going to destroy him. Subscribe right now. You will not want to miss what happens next. After the shower, I called my attorney and told him to prepare the transfer packet and courier it to Wilson and Victoria's address. After the bridal shower fallout, I didn't want any delays. Signed acceptance would be needed before the closing could happen. 3 days later, legal paperwork arrived at their Dallas apartment. Official documents, transfer paperwork, everything prepared and ready for them to sign. My attorney had worked quickly. The deed was in the process of being transferred to their names. I don't know exactly when they opened it. I just know that within 24 to 48 hours, Wilson called me on a Wednesday morning, and his voice was completely confused. Between patients in the hygiene room, I answered. "Mom," he said, "Victoria and I got some paperwork in the mail today from a law firm. It's about a deed transfer. We're confused. What is this?" I had 2 minutes before my next appointment. I asked, "What does the paperwork say?" It says something about property in Austin, Texas, 385 Magnolia Street. It says the deed is being transferred to our names, but we never authorized this. We never asked for this. Mom, what is going on? My heart was beating fast, but my voice was calm. I said, "Read me the address again." 385 Magnolia Street, Austin, Texas. It's a deed transfer. But Mom, we don't own property. I don't understand what this is. I said, "That's the house." "What house?" "The house I purchased for you for your wedding gift. The papers I gave Victoria at the bridal shower."
She threw a house deed on the floor? Wilson asked slowly. His voice was getting higher. Panicked. She threw away papers thinking it was... What did she think it was? A piece of paper, I said. She didn't bother to read it. She just rejected it without knowing what it was. "Oh my God," Wilson said. "Oh my God, Mom, this is a house? An actual house for us?" "Yes," I said. "She rejected a house? She threw away a house?" "Yes." I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line. "This is incredible," he said. His voice was shifting now, from confusion to realization, from realization to excitement. "Mom, do you understand what this means? We can actually get out of this apartment. We can actually build a life. Where did you get the money?" And that's when I heard it. That's when I heard the exact moment my son realized his entire future had just changed. And he didn't call to thank me. He didn't ask me how I felt about Victoria's rejection. He didn't apologize for staying silent while his fiancée humiliated his mother. He just realized what he was getting. "Wilson," I said. "Yeah? Does Victoria know what the paperwork actually says?" I just showed it to her. She's reading it now. She's not saying anything." "Put her on the phone," I said. "What? Why would I put her on the phone, Wilson?" He did. Victoria's voice came through the line. It was different now. No condescension, no arrogance. Just panic. "Hello," she said. She sounded small, scared. "You thought it was a piece of paper," I said. I'm so sorry. I didn't understand. Wilson explained it. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. If I'd known it was actually a house deed, I would have never..." "You would have never what?" I interrupted. "You would have never rejected it? You would have never called it cheap? You would have never thrown it on the floor?" "I didn't understand," Victoria said. Her voice was shaking now. "I thought you were giving me a coupon or something. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings." "You didn't understand," I repeated. "So if I'd given you a house in a fancy box, you would have been grateful. But because it came in an envelope, you treated it like trash." She didn't say anything.
The deed is real. The house is real. I purchased it for you and Wilson as a wedding gift. It's yours. The transfer paperwork is already prepared. You just need to sign it." There was a pause. "We can't accept this," Victoria said quickly. "This is too much. We can't." "You're right. You can't." And I hung up. Wilson tried calling me back immediately. I didn't answer. I just sent him a text. "I'm canceling the transfer. Don't contact me again." I meant every word. That night I called Terry. "I'm canceling the transfer," I said.
"Cancel?" he asked. "We're in motion. The paperwork is, I want the deed back to my name. I want to list the house immediately." "What happened?" Terry asked. I told him everything. The bridal shower, the deed copy she thought was worthless, the way she threw it, the way Wilson's first response wasn't gratitude. It was realizing what he was getting. The way Victoria immediately tried to manipulate me when she found out it was real. "They don't deserve this," I said. "They don't understand the value of what I've given them. And I'm done giving." Terry got the documents filed that night. The transfer cancellation went through at 11:47 p.m. The house was back in my name, complete, legally, undeniable. Within 24 to 48 hours, legal papers went out to Wilson and Victoria's address. A cancellation notice. The transfer had been reversed. The deed was no longer coming to them. I waited to see how they'd react. Wilson called me 2 days after receiving the cancellation notice. His voice was panicking. Real panic. The kind where someone realizes they've made a terrible mistake and there's no way to undo it. "Mom, what did you do?" he asked. "What happened to the transfer?" I was in the hygiene room again, between patients. These conversations kept happening while I was at work, like my life was collapsing in 15-minute increments. "The transfer was canceled," I said. You canceled it? But why? We were going to transfer it to our names. We were counting on that house. Victoria and I talked about it constantly. We told people. I told people at work. We made plans." "I know you did," I said. "Then why would you cancel it?" I could have told him. I could have told him exactly what Victoria said at that bridal shower, exactly how she'd rejected it without even knowing what it was, exactly how she'd humiliated me in front of 40 women. I could have told him about the moment our eyes met and he looked away instead of defending his mother. But I didn't. Because it was my house, my money, my decision. But we're getting married in 6 weeks." "I know. And I meant it. I did know. And I didn't care anymore." "We can't afford a house now, Mom. We were counting on that as our down payment. We were counting on it to change our lives." "That's not my problem," I said. I heard him take a breath. "What do you mean that's not your problem? You're my mother." "Exactly. I'm your mother. Not your mother's ATM, not your backup plan when your fiancé humiliates me at a party. I'm your mother, but I'm also a person. And I'm done." "With what?" "Done sacrificing myself for people who don't value me." He called me back 17 times that day. I didn't answer any of them. I just watched the notifications come through. Got the voicemails about how unfair I was being. How could I do this right before his wedding? What was he supposed to tell Victoria? What was he going to do? I knew exactly how unfair I was being. That was the point.
The week after Victoria called me, her voice was completely different now. The condescension was gone. Now it was desperation. The kind of desperation that comes from someone who finally understands they've made a catastrophic mistake. "Hi," she said. Her voice was small. Scared. "Hi, Victoria," I said. I was at home this time, sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee. "I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding about the house," she said. I know I wasn't grateful the way I should have been at the shower, but that was just me being nervous. You know how it is with weddings. Stress makes people say things they don't mean." "Okay," I said. "So I was thinking, could you maybe help us get into a house? We could work something out, a loan from you. We could pay you back over time, with interest, whatever you want." I almost laughed. Actually, no, I did laugh, but not in a mean way, in a way that was completely genuine and completely done. "No," I said. "No?" She sounded shocked, like the word no wasn't something that existed in her vocabulary, like the word no was something that happened to other people, not to her. "No," I repeated. "I'm not giving you any more money, Victoria. Not a loan, not a gift, not anything." "But Wilson is your fiancé. That makes him your responsibility, not mine." I hung up. She called back within minutes, texted within seconds, sent emails within hours, all apologetic, all desperate, all variations of the same message. "I'm sorry, I was wrong. I didn't realize what I was throwing away." By day 3, she'd called 42 times, texted 67 times, sent 9 emails. By day 7, she showed up at my work. I was with a patient when she arrived. My receptionist told me there was someone asking for me. When I finished with the patient, Victoria was sitting in my waiting room, eyes red from crying. She said we needed to talk. I said, "We have nothing to talk about." I didn't even stop walking toward my next patient. "Please," she said, "Wilson is devastated. He's losing his mind. We need your help. We can't find a place. We can't qualify for anything. We're running out of time." "Then you should have been kind at that bridal shower. You should have thought about consequences before you threw something on the floor that you didn't even understand." "I didn't know what it was," she cried. "Exactly. And you still chose cruelty. You still chose to be mean. And now you're experiencing the consequences of that choice." I closed the door to the exam room and left her sitting there. She called my workplace phone. She called the hospital main line. She sent flowers to my home. She created a new email address to send me messages when I blocked the first one. By day 21, I got a call from the hospital administrator. Victoria had been calling repeatedly, saying it was a family emergency. The administrator asked if there was anything I needed to disclose. No emergency, just someone who's facing consequences. By day 30, something shifted. The call stopped. The email stopped. The texts stopped. I got one final call from Wilson on day 32. His voice was completely different. Broken, not angry. Just broken. "Mom, we're in a small studio apartment, 480 square feet. We're sharing it with another couple because we can't afford our own place. Victoria is humiliated. I'm embarrassed. Everyone at work knows we were supposed to be closing on a house, and now we're living like college students." "I know," I said. "I don't understand why you did this. We needed you." "You needed my money?" I corrected. "That's different from needing me." "It's not fair," he said. "No," I agreed. "It's not fair. Life rarely is. But you know what else isn't fair? Watching your son choose someone who throws your mother's sacrifices in her face. Watching someone reject 40 years of love because it wasn't the right kind of luxury. That's not fair either, Wilson. And you know what the worst part was? You were there, at that bridal shower. You watched Victoria humiliate me and you said nothing. You looked away. You let it happen." He was quiet for a very long time. "I'm blocking your number now," I said, "and Victoria's. I'm going to need some time. And until you figure out which side you're on, I can't be part of your life." "Mom, don't." I didn't let him finish. I hung up and I opened my phone settings.
I blocked Wilson's number at 7:34 p.m. Then I blocked Victoria's number at 7:35 p.m. I also told all my mutual relatives if they relayed messages from either of them to me, I'd block them too. I meant it. This wasn't a moment of anger I'd recover from. This was a boundary I was enforcing, and I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, not satisfaction, just clarity. I was done. I kept the house off the market after the cancellation, not because I was considering selling it, but because I wanted Wilson and Victoria to sit in uncertainty. I wanted them to hope that maybe if they groveled enough, if they apologized enough, if they played the "but I'm your son" card perfectly enough, I'd reconsider and give it back to them. Let them hope. Because hope is the cruelest thing you can give someone who doesn't deserve it. 2 weeks later, I let them sit in that uncertainty, checking the property records, wondering what I was going to do. I called Terry. "Sell it," I said. "So what? We just canceled the transfer." "The house. List it immediately. I don't care about the asking price. I just want it gone." "You're sure?" Terry asked. "Completely sure." The house went on the market on Friday morning. By Tuesday, we had 3 offers. By Thursday, we had 5. The market was hot. The house was beautiful. People wanted it. I got the winning offer on Friday at 3 p.m., $410,000. The house had appreciated $25,000 in 3 weeks. Victoria had rejected something worth $410,000 and called it cheap. "Sell it to them," I told Terry. The paperwork closed in 16 days. The wire hit my account before dawn the next morning. I watched the notification come through on my phone, and I felt something shift inside me. I didn't feel revenge. I felt freedom. And I made a decision that was even more powerful than keeping the money or writing it into a will. I donated the entire $410,000 to organizations that help women.
Women's shelters in Texas, programs that help women escape financial abuse, organizations that teach women about financial independence, domestic violence prevention initiatives. I spread it across 8 different nonprofits, each one doing work that would matter. I did it immediately. Not later, not when I died, now. Because I didn't want this money sitting in my account as some kind of revenge trophy. I wanted it to help people who'd been where I was. Small, invisible, completely dependent on people who didn't value them. I wanted my sacrifice to transform into someone else's freedom. I called my attorney, Robert, and I told him what I'd done. "I want to update my will," I said. "I want it documented that I've already given away the $410,000. I want it explained why. I want Wilson to understand exactly what that amount means." Robert got to work immediately. The new will was drafted within a week. It was airtight. Wilson would get nothing from the house proceeds. But more importantly, the will makes clear why I gave away $410,000 in my lifetime. It explains that this was the amount of the house he rejected. It explains that instead of leaving it to someone who disrespected his mother, I donated it to help other women escape situations like the one I finally escaped. When Wilson's estate attorney reads him the will after I'm gone, he's going to see that explanation. He's going to do the math. He's going to understand that the cost of disrespecting his mother, the cost of saying nothing while his fiancée humiliated me, the cost of not defending the woman who'd sacrificed 40 years for him, that cost was exactly $410,000. The amount Victoria rejected when she threw that deed on the floor. The amount she'll never have. The amount that's now changing lives. I signed the will on Thursday morning, and I felt lighter than I'd felt in 40 years. That afternoon, I went to my bank and reorganized my personal accounts, everything that was exclusively for me. I opened a new investment portfolio. I made plans. I booked a trip to Italy for the fall. For the first time in 40 years, I was planning for myself. Wilson tried to reach me through every channel imaginable, different phone numbers, email addresses, messages through mutual friends. His father, who I hadn't heard from in years and who had no right to be involved, tried calling. Family members I hadn't spoken to in ages reached out. I responded to none of them. By day 45, the calls stopped. The messages stopped. I'd made it clear. I was closed off. Not just physically blocked, but emotionally unavailable. Not just for the moment, but permanently. And you know what? It felt incredible. Terry told me later that Victoria had tried to reach out to him. She wanted to know if there was any way to reverse the sale, if there was any way to get the house back, if there was any way to undo what she'd done. Terry told her the same thing I would have told her. No. Some choices are permanent. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. Victoria had made her choice at that bridal shower. She'd chosen cruelty. She'd chosen to humiliate someone she didn't even know. And now she had to live with that choice. Wilson had made his choice too. He'd chosen to say nothing. He'd chosen to look away. And now he had to live with that choice as well. I couldn't control what happened to them anymore, but I could control what happened to me. And what I chose was freedom. Real, immediate, irrevocable freedom. 6 months later, I'm living my life. Not the life where I'm constantly giving, not the life where my bank account is someone else's security blanket. I'm living my life. I wake up at 6 a.m. because I want to. I go to work because I enjoy it, not because I'm frantically trying to pay for someone else's dreams. I come home to a quiet condo, a nice one that I bought for myself, and I feel something I hadn't felt in decades. Peace. Real peace. Victoria and Wilson got married at a Justice of the Peace office. 3 people, no reception. I saw the photos on Facebook, posted by his best friend, not by them. Victoria didn't even smile in the pictures. She looked like she was at a funeral, which, in a way, I suppose she was. The funeral of the life she thought she was going to have. They're in a small studio apartment now, 480 square feet, shared with another couple because they can't afford their own place. Victoria, who'd spent her entire life in luxury, is experiencing something called reality for the first time. Wilson works longer hours, lower pay. He's catering to Victoria's needs because she's still angry about the house. She's still bitter about the rejection. She's still making his life miserable because she can't let go of what she lost. And he's letting her. I don't feel anything about this anymore. Not guilt, not satisfaction, not anger, just clarity. They made their choices. I'm living with the consequences of mine, and my consequences are beautiful. I spent 3 weeks in Italy last fall. I'm planning to go to Greece next year. I'm reading books that I've wanted to read for 40 years. I'm sleeping 8 hours a night. I'm wearing clothes I chose because I like them, not because I was trying to prove anything. I'm living in a space that's completely mine. I'm becoming someone I didn't even know I could be. Someone who's not defined by what she gives to other people. Someone who's allowed to want things. Someone who's allowed to say no. Victoria taught me that, actually. When she threw that deed on the floor, a deed she didn't even know was a house, she was trying to teach me that my sacrifice didn't matter, that I was beneath her, that my generosity was garbage. She was wrong about all of it, but she was right about one thing. I wasn't going to keep sacrificing. I just did it on my terms, not hers. The money is already helping people. I know this because the nonprofits send updates. Women who've left abusive situations, young girls learning about financial independence, families getting support, lives changing because I decided to give instead of keep. And that feels better than any revenge ever could. When Wilson opens his will after I'm gone, he'll learn that I gave away $410,000. He'll see the explanation I left for him. He'll understand that his mother, the woman who sacrificed 40 years, decided that her money was going to do more good in the world than it would sitting in his hands. He'll understand what that number means. Victoria will find out too. She'll see that amount, and she'll realize that the casual cruelty she displayed at that bridal shower to something she didn't even understand cost her more than money. It cost her a future. It cost her any inheritance from a woman she disrespected. It cost her the knowledge that her mother-in-law's final legacy would be to help women escape situations like hers. But by then, it will be too late. And I'm okay with that. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't loud. It's quiet. It's strategic. It's a changed will. It's blocked numbers. It's a life lived so completely free of you that your absence doesn't create a hole. It just creates silence. And silence, my friends? Silence is where power lives. I sip a good Barolo on my balcony and let the quiet do the talking. I'm wearing a blouse I chose because I loved it. I'm living in a space that's completely mine, filled with things that make me happy, surrounded by people who actually value me. And I'm finally, completely, absolutely free. The woman who sacrificed 40 years, she's gone. What's left is someone who loves herself first. And that woman, she's unstoppable. She's already changing the world. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe. I've got more stories about women who stopped playing small, women who stood up, women who won. Stories that will remind you that you have more power than you think you do. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications because the next story, it's even more shocking than this one. And hey, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Share it with a friend who's still sacrificing too much. Share it with someone who's still invisible. Let them know it doesn't have to be this way. Thank you for being here. Thank you for witnessing my story. And remember, silence is where power lives. I'll see you in the next one.